Alright, welcome back to the channel, guys. Well, we're finally getting to repairing this manure spreader. We're bent, the axle bent. You can see it's all twisted up there. The little bottom's rotted, and that plate kind of rotted away from the axle housing itself. Yeah, so kind of hard to see, but yeah, it's definitely pushed right up. So yeah, I gotta get all these here bolts out. I've got to pull this wheel off. So I got to pull off the other wheel, and I took the bolts over, bolted the deck bolted down to that axle, and I marked out to where I got to drill the holes. I did a few over there already. I don't know if you guys can see them, but I need to get the bolts out of there, so that's kind of what I'm end up doing there, so I can get those bolts out. So I just took my little oscillating tool there, because yeah, just the way the bolts are dealing with that. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna set you up. I'll finish cutting those some of these holes on the bottom of the deck so I can get the bolts out, and then we'll pull that other wheel off and get the thing set up to pull this axle out. Hey, bring you back in a bit. Hey, so now we're just gonna drill some holes in these corners here. At least that way I got some place already right to the corner for my oscillating tool. I might as well drill out these other 4 holes. Okay, so that works. I'm just going to blow some of this wood chips away. Plug in my oscillating tool. I got one of these air-powered ones, and it was cheap when I got the thing, so may have to set you back or a little bit off to the side here a bit, I think. Let's see how that works. Just so I can kind of get in somewhat closer. Alright, I should be able to see them now, I think. Yeah, I don't want you guys facing into the sun, so maybe I'll back it up over here a little bit. That should work, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I'll just start by just following my lines now. Do a couple of them anyway. There's lots of dirt and stuff underneath here. Yeah, it's funny, is actually when I measured it out for cutting these little plugs out, I just left just enough room when I ran the drill bit. It just grazed the angle iron that holds the edge of that board in place. So that was kind of lucky on my part anyway. Yeah, I didn't want to pull these outside, these outer planks out, because that's a lot of work. Oh, plus right underneath here is the axle too, so. But yeah, I needed to get these here carriage bolts out. Like I said, I didn't want to pull. I had to roll up my whole chain all the way, then take it right out of here so I can get the planks out of here. I didn't want to do that. So yeah, so just bring you back. I'll cut the other 2 holes out, and I'll bring you back when I start unbolting the thing. I'm going to pull this other tire off now. Okay. Now put these here. My lug nuts back on here. Yeah, I'll tell you what, how to get a few of these bolts out, get it started here anyway. There's one bolt in the back here that's a little bit of a pain to get at. You know, see if I can get out this here bolt here. Well, that's not very helpful. Seems like this axle's longer on this side. I'll try that out for size. See if I can't get the gun in here. Well, that works. And I got to do a little bit of cleaning up in here. Come on. Didn't want to drop my washer down the hole. There we go. And just so I don't have to go climbing up and down, those little holes I cleaned out, well, that's to catch my bolts. Well, now you guys can kind of understand, because that's why I end up getting cut those holes in there. But yeah, this is why the axle rotted out, because look at the inside in here. Like there's the stub, but I'm gonna have to, and it's full of water in there, so that's not good. So I'm gonna have to make some new plates, and but yeah, I'm gonna get set up, get my come along hooked onto here. So once I get these this plate out of my way, because I got basically 4 bolts along the top there, and then these 2 on each side, and then I'll be ready to drop the axle out. All right, bring it back in a bit. Okay, I already got the bolts out on the other side. And now I'm just gonna take this here side off. And as you see, I got a couple of come-alongs. I got one on each side and a chunk of big rebar stretched across the top here. Found that's probably the easiest way to deal with it. I think I got her all unbolted now. Go find my bolts here. Huh. Well, let's see how this here works now. Release this thing. I guess I better lock down and go release the other side a little bit. We got a flood. apparently the whole axle's full of water. Definitely know why the thing is rotted out. The whole thing is just full of water inside there. Well, that makes a whole bunch more sense. I'll go let the other side down some more, get this thing on the ground. Yep, who would have thought? I had no idea that there was that much water in there, because every time it rains it's under the floor. Well, this definitely works for dropping her down. Watch your fingers. Well, that works pretty slick. Get the other side lower down now, and I think I'm gonna set this thing up on a, just making sure you guys can see what's going on there. I just need something to slide it over to the other side. So yeah, I got a little crappy chunk of fiberglass here. It was off one of the fairings I took apart. So I'll just set it on there. Maybe not crosswise, I think. There. Well, I'll go and hook the other side and see if I can start dragging it over. Well, we managed to drag it out. It's not as heavy as I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I'll take this thing off the stand here. Yeah, you can see it's all full of water and manure and stuff like that. So I have to drag it out of the way here and flip it over and scooch the stuff out. Park it by the corral here and See how these, it won't be that terribly bad to get that pin out. But yeah, that's how it's pinned in there. But yeah, I just had an end part kind of went for crap. So yeah, I'm gonna go get a cart and I'm gonna move this thing out of the way. I'll clean it out and I'll bring it back once I get it up on a pair of sawhorses. Now guys, got the thing dragged out, kind of washed it off and picked all the manure and stuff out of there, but yeah, you can definitely see the rot holes through there, but I'll get it in the sun for you. And that's how the pins are supposed to be, but I see a little bit of rust jacking on that. I'll probably redo that. But yeah, you can definitely see where this one bent out and when the thing collapsed. But yeah, you can see where it just pushed the whole thing because the side walls, the side parts here rotted out and the whole thing shifted up and tilted up. But otherwise, yeah, I'm going to start needle scaling, do a little bit of major cleanup on it. And other than that, I'll see what I'm going to do to reinforce it. Okay, I'll bring it back when I start dealing with other stuff on it. Okay, I got to the point now where I'm going to cut these little welds where this little plate was supposed to be a cover plate, which is supposed to be one on the other side too. But there's supposed to be this one little tiny drain hole on the bottom, but obviously it wasn't doing its job. But that's great for water, but it shouldn't have had the manure getting in there over time. But I'm going to cut these a couple little welds on this little plate, pry it off, and see what we see underneath there. But yeah, you can definitely see that this here is bent out from the whole thing twisting up. I may have to cut it out and make some new plates for it, but we'll see what happens, I guess. Get away on this side here a bit. Yeah, I should be able to chisel it out now. Whoops. Here with my chisel. Ah. I have to go fishing. I'll be back in a sec here. I go dig out a magnet, dig out my chisel. I got my magnet, trusty magnet here, and fish my chisel back out. There we go. This looks like it's welded just on the ends here only. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to cut these here welds just so I can get this thing bent back down. I don't know how else to get this thing off and start hacking away on the sides here, and a little bit of a pain, but yeah, because now you can kind of see where it's all twisted up here. Because it's supposed to be kind of straight across to here, but Yeah, I'll have to cut some of this here parts out here to start with and take it from there, take measurements, try to straighten it as best I can. But yeah, because I'm going to have to cut a new plate for this here because it's twisted. But yeah, we're going to have to get it to the point. Yeah, it's a little bit corroded on this here stub shaft here, but that's not going to really affect anything. I just got to clean it up and just cut some new plates because it looks like this 1/4 inch plate in there and that's it. But yeah, I'll have to cut it out in order to deal with it anyway. Just probably take the plasma cutter and cut it out and get it out of there because this is all rotted out in here anyway. So alrighty, I'll bring it back when I start hacking away at it. I'm going to shut her down for tonight and probably just do some needle scaling and kind of clean it up a little bit. And I'll bring you back when I get something more happening with it. Well guys, I kind of forgot to hit the record button out there. I managed to get this axle stub off. So yeah, I just kind of took a die grinder with a zip wheel and kind of cut the welds out of there. The outside flange there, that was the easiest because it was just a little bit of a weld right there, a little bit there, and you can see it's all rotted through. And I think this was welded on here at one time, but it's obviously had a little bit of a lip on there to grind down, and there's only a little bit of material on the bottom here, but the sides, yeah, didn't have to do nothing. It was just rotted right out. But yeah, when the whole axle went up and that side piece flexed up, and then it bent this here part. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I had to kind of grind the weld off of there after the fact. But it's actually supposed to sit on the shaft right there, and but otherwise, yeah, because it looked like I had a little bit of a bead of weld on here. But yeah, I'm just going to pull this hub apart. I'll stick it in the lathe, clean that up a little bit, make even a little bit of ledge on there. But clean up some of this rust. I'll take a wire wheel to it and kind of grind it down a little bit. And I got to make some new plates because, yeah, there's nothing left. But this was the whole extent of the drain hole. I don't know if you guys could see that right there. That was it for the drain hole, but they were both blocked. And yeah, there's plates just on the top right here, outside the body. But on the center part, there was no plate, and I don't know if there ever was one, or when they replaced the boards on it, that they might have, I don't know, pulled that plate off. But the other side, that's still intact, it was actually wide open. But yeah, that's where all the manure come from. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to take the hub off, pull the stub shaft out. I'll chuck it up in the lathe and clean up the ends, and then figure out what I'm gonna cut for plates, because I'm obviously gonna have to reinforce and rebuild that end. And I'll probably end up cutting the other side, because this end plate right here on the other side, it's not much long for this world either. It's all corroded. So probably rebuild both ends at the same time, because you know how that works. You fix one side and it may last the rest of the season, but it may not, you know. Also it'll be the same thing, but if the other side does the same thing as this side did, what'll end up happening is when the wheel tilts in, this side was just rubbing up against the sidewall, but on the left side of the machine, if that wheel tilts in, it'll bend the drive shaft for the gearbox and that the actuator. So yeah, it'll do stupid things when that happens. But anyways, I'm going to leave it here. It's already got dark already, so we'll leave that alone for now, and have to figure out how to take this hub apart. And I'll start by cleaning up the shaft and make it to a somewhat of a decent dimension. Like I said, I'll probably, because it had a little bit of, it was sitting way back here where this little rust trail is. That's where it was, but it was welded on the end here, so. But yeah, it's got at least a center point. I have to re-drill it, clean it out and re-drill it. And yeah, because you could see where they'd machined it out, whatever, but it's been, yeah, it's just not much left of it. Like, it's It's actually a little pinhole right in the middle there. But anyways, so yeah, so I'm going to leave it there for now, and at least I'm getting some work done on it anyway. Alrighty, we'll see you guys in probably a few days when I get to working on the thing again. I got to figure out, see what I got for materials, and kind of plan out my strategy. At least once I get the one side done and get it figured out, then the second side will be easier. But I think what I'm going to end up having to do, like, I don't know how this is going to work, because this is a pretty big piece. I do got a 4-jaw chuck on my lathe. I could chuck up on the lathe, but it'd be way offset, so I don't know. I'll have to see. I may actually have to... I do got a backing plate for the lathe, a big 12-inch backing plate, so I can kind of clamp it off to the side, because it's got slots in it, and that's probably the easiest way for me to get big holes like that and machine the spec. At least I could take the stub and slide it in and get a proper fit. So at least I kind of make it to fit anyway. Then when I put it together, we'll just weld it back up. And hopefully it'll last till the life of the machine. Probably will last the rest of my life, because you got to figure this is early to mid-70s machine. So yeah, it's lasted all these years. Get manure and water in there, so I guess if I rebuild the axle, it'll be good for another quite a few years. Alrighty, I'll see you guys in probably a few days. Okay guys, yeah, I managed to get, I think I showed in the last step, or section there, I got this, the end caps off this spindle hub here, or spindle. So I took the hub off, because I'm going to chuck it up in the lathe here, so I can turn down these weld spots so I can make it for the proper fitment for to weld in my plate. Kind of rearrange it a little bit instead of running in the center the way it did. I don't have that kind of material, so but yeah, I'll just chuck it up and take out some of that part, and then right along here they welded. I just want to clean up and make a little tiny bit of a, not much of a ledge, just so I can have the metal overlap just a little bit. I'll have to figure out all my dimensions and whatnot, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, I got that little scraps taken off there. So, but that tubing there, to kind of cut this here end off now. I just kind of left these welds, because if I grind it down right now, I got to do some tack welds on the back side to hold it in position. But the flange is going to come down 4 inches. Yeah, down up into there. I'll have to fish plate the bottom, but the rest is solid enough. But I'll probably just throw a couple fish so it doesn't twist up when I load it down. And hopefully it works. See, there's a little pinhole right there. And there you guys can probably see that little bright spot. So I have to kind of fill that up with weld, but otherwise, yeah, what I kind of figured out, I'm gonna, like I say, make some plates for those for that spindle to go in. And these here, these are off a cultivator, but I got a big flange on it. And so this here I'll probably bolt it on or just weld it. Doesn't really matter what I do with it. But I'm going to cut it off to about 9.5 inches from this face over here to here. And then I got some heavy plate. It's almost 1/2 inch plate. And I'll cut a piece off so it'll cap the end. And then I'll drill a hole in it and probably put in the 4-jaw chuck on the lathe there to bore it out to the right diameter. So then I'll cap the one, and it'll be sticking out, and the spindle is going to just lay on the bottom instead of being inside. So it'll lay across the bottom there instead. So I'll have that end cap right about there, and then have a shorter one. And I'll have this machine have to figure it all out. Like as I'm doing this here one, yeah, I'm not doing a whole bunch of video, just sparks flying and everything, dust flying, rust dust, and yeah, because some of this old scrap metal here has been sitting outside and for years, and it's all pitted. But yeah, I got to pretty much stick weld it all anyway. So But anyways, so I kind of just leave it there for, had enough for the cleaning rust and stuff and trying to cut that one piece off. Yeah, I tried using the plasma cutter on it, but all it does is just, with all that rust, it just blows back all the time, burned out a tip pretty quick. But anyways, okay, we're gonna call her a night here and come back here tomorrow and continue on. Yeah, at least I don't need it immediately, but I figure I might as well in my spare time get working on it, because I'm gonna need it before fall anyway. Hey, catch you guys in a couple days. Hey guys, get you guys brought back here. Okay, got the spindle stuck up in the lathe here, and I guess if I would have put the 4-jaw chuck on, I could have slid it in a little farther, but that's okay. I got it tapped into position where I got it centered on the original center drilled hole, but I cleaned out a little bit of rust and picked and scratched around so I don't dull my bit so much. But I'm just going to re-drill to make sure, and right now I just sort of grazed the edge there to set it up, and it'll be close enough. It's only for a spindle anyway. But anyways, yeah, so I'm just going to re-drill that so I got some extra support, being the fact it's sticking out so far and I got nothing to really grip on. Like I said, if I put my 4-jaw chuck, then I could slide it in right up an extra couple inches, but that's okay. We'll just deal with that. Probably speed it up a little bit. Yeah, it's all pitted and stuff like that on here, but that's not going to affect anything. But it's not going to be sitting inside that tube anymore. It'll be sitting in all that moisture and manure and whatnot. They'll drop it down below that tubing now, so that'll make a big difference. It'll keep it from corroding anymore, but otherwise, the spindle still works because it's going to take all the support way back over here and on the end here. A little farther. That should work. Yeah, I should actually see if I can actually get it centered up a little bit, or I'll see if I can't face the end off a little bit here. Not that it really matters, but hopefully I can just touch it up a little bit there just to smooth it off where the center drilled part is going to be more smooth on there. So make sure I got enough clearance here. Let's see. Speed it up just a little bit. Let's see if I got a little sharper a bit. Otherwise I'm going to have to sharpen this one a bit. I guess this will do for now. I have to sharpen that. I just using the high speed. I don't like using my carbide, especially on rusty surfaces like this. Yeah, it took off enough of there. Doesn't matter if it's a little rough, it's going to get pitted anyway, so that doesn't really matter anymore. There. Yeah, all I got to do is just kind of trim it off a little bit here, so probably go up a little faster here. Just taking off a little bit of remnants of the weld off of here. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to sharpen up these here bits. Like I said, I don't want to ruin my carbide inserts dealing with the rusty metal here. Yeah, otherwise I'm just gonna kind of speed this up a little bit here and sand this here a little bit where my seal rides on. Yeah, there's a little bit of a groove in there from the seal. It's just a grease seal anyway, so it's not that big of an issue. Like I'll polish it up a little bit more, but yeah, all this here major pitting, like I said, it's not going to affect anything what it's doing because it'll be a support brace here, a support on the end. I just need to clean it up or I can at least get it somewhat round. I'll probably take off, but I gotta, yeah, already, because this stuff's fairly hard in. It's probably 4140 or something like that for axle spindles. Yeah, I'll clean it up and then that way I can just put my flange right on there and then I can just weld it in that groove. You know, it's probably tapered off or whatever. No specific amount, like when I go and drill the pieces, I'll just tuck it up in the 4-jaw chuck and I'll have the shaft here just to try it as I go through anyway, so. Okay, I'll bring you back. I'm gonna go sharpen these into the high-speed steel bits and we'll take it from there. Hey guys, kind of next day here. Just set up on the bandsaw here to cut these little stubs I got off the old cultivator here, which I'm going to use for my stub ends. And yeah, this here stub shaft, it'll end up in brackets. Because you got to figure this is, yeah, whoops, wrong end. This would be the other bracket. There'll be one off the end here on this side. And it's just going to set it right down against the, actually be on the side here against the flat, but it'll be a little bit taller than what it was originally, but I don't have a choice right now. But yeah, I'm going to start getting this thing cut up here and get a couple pieces, get both pieces cut up, and then I'll make up the little brackets after the fact. Yeah, I think I'll put this here part on time lapse here because it's probably going to take forever to cut through this heavy wall tubing. So, oh yeah, I'll put you guys on time lapse here. Okay, got these pieces cut off. So this is kind of how it's going to sit. This is going to be upside down. This will actually be the bottom side. So I'm going to end up with a little sleeve on here, which not this here. I got to cut new ones. These are all just totally corroded, but that'll sit up on there. And then there'll be let's see if I can grab the old one off of here, but it'll be similar anyway. Because there's the original one, but it's going to go flat all the way down along the edge there. I'm just going to turn this thing around here so I set it on a little bit better. But it's going to cover the whole flat on here. It'll be right to the edge here anyway. And then this, it'll be a smaller one on the end like that. So that'll hold the stubby. It'll get leveled and whatnot. So I got to make the right brackets for it. But yeah, it'll kind of sit more like on the flat side, more like that. But it'll come right down to the bottom. So it'll come straight up. And I'll just bore out a hole on the, I just got to cut some brackets for it. I might as well cut them in pairs. So yeah, it'll probably end up being, I don't know, 2 inches higher in the back end of the manure spreader, but that doesn't really matter. Just the easiest way to do it. I don't want this buried into stuff because these spindles aren't exactly cheap anyway, let alone the steel to even make new ones. But might as well make use of this. Like I said, these pitted parts don't matter because it's not attached to anything, but it's plenty strong enough for what I need because all the weight will be sitting right on the end here anyway. But yeah, that's how it's going to work, and I'll see how close I can get it. I could probably get it even a little tighter like that. So if I sit this flat on there, if I bore the holes out right, and so I just kind of clamp this here end down. And yeah, technically I could just weld this here stub shaft right onto here, but if I ever need it for something else, that's once this manure spreader's wore out, that way it's easier for me to reuse some of the stuff anyway. So anyway, so I'm going to go take some measurements and we'll start cutting some plates for the other part. Okay, this is what the original side looks like, the supposedly good side with all the rot holes in it. But yeah, that's basically the height it's going to be. And right now I got it sort of clamped in place. And that stub shaft's going to have a chunk of plate that will come right up to the top here. And then it'll hold that stub in place. And I'll have another bracket at the end. But right in here, depending on I could probably move it up about a 1/4 inch. May have to grind out a little knot so I can get the nut in there where it holds it onto the frame of the manure spreader. And otherwise I'm going to weld it all the way around and fill in these holes with some weld, I guess. And but yeah, I can raise it up a little. I can grind a little notch out of here just to make sure I got enough room to get the nut on there. I'll just put a bolt in place with a nut and just make sure I got enough room to get a socket on there and whatever. But that's kind of what the gist is going to look like. And so now I just got to cut the plate to fit on this front section here, and then the little back section, a little plate. And yeah, I'll get it cut to the proper length and then get it bored out so it fits on there, so I could weld this stub shaft onto there. And then once I get it placed, and that should hold it. It may be a little bit, about 1.5 inches, about 1.5 inches taller than what it was, but that's not going to really affect the whole bunch. I'm just trying to make sure it's going to hang on to, but I'll cut the other side off to match. But yeah, otherwise you can kind of see where I'm going with this anyway. So I'm just going to flip this thing upside down. But yeah, so that's basically how it's going to sit. To be a plate right there, and to be another plate right on here. I may raise it up a 1/16 of an inch, maybe not. Just kind of let a little air gap in there so it doesn't get stuff collected in there. And like I said, I could just weld it right onto there. It'll probably hold, but more likely to break this stub shaft off right there. That's why I want that plate. And it only needs to stick up probably about a 1/4 inch above here, maybe 1/2 inch, whatever, trimmed off to the sides. And it should be fine. But that'll give me my support spindle, because that's how even my anhydrous carts spindles are built. And when I put that plate on here, that'll fill in the end of this here box tubing. But yeah, I still got to do a bunch of grinding here because I need to tack weld it on the back side. Otherwise, it's gonna, if I grind these welds off totally and trim it right off, this plate will fall off, and I don't want to, because it's already centered, so I want to kind of leave it intact that way. But yeah, you guys got the gist of it anyway, so I'll proceed on cutting those plates and get them bored out. I may bring you a little bit for boring out those plates and welding them in, but yeah, that's what where the idea is going with it. But that's what it's going to look like. It'll be, instead of kind of more towards this ledge here, because like, yeah, right now that's what it'll kind of look like. It just, yeah, I got that gap in there because these little rotten pieces in there, but that's kind of how it's going to look anyway, and I'll close that gap in. Alrighty, we'll bring you back when we get to that point. Hey, kind of back here a couple days later here, so I just gonna try to lop this other axle stub off. The other side is a little bit easier, but this one's going to be a little bit more difficult, so I'm going to see how well this here works with the plasma cutter, because it's all rusty. I get most of it, I guess. Well, looks like it's going through anyhow. That's good. Well, now my biggest thing is I got to make sure I catch this stub. I'm just going to wrap this around so I don't burn my cable. Thing is heavy. Well, it works. At least I got that part off. Now, let's see. What can I do with this? Now, I guess I'll just try, I don't know if you guys can actually see that over there. Kind of. I'll go up a little higher here. Well, let's have a closer look at here. I want to cut this flange off because I think I'm going to have to do some grinding on here anyway. Okay, that doesn't work so good. Let's see. Need my ground cable. See if I can get somewhat of a decent ground on here along the edge. Yeah, I forgot I just had it sitting on the rusty surface. I just forgot to run my ground cable over, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, that's better. I think it should work. Okay, now the next challenge is see if I can't get this thing out of here. I don't know how I'm going to get it out of there, but I'll try to figure it out, I guess. Well, see if I can just cut it out. This one's strong enough where I can actually kind of gouge at the same time. I'm not using the gouging tip, but just the drag cut kit or tip. Let's see, where does these welds go to? Okay, well, I guess we'll see what happens here. A little warm in there. I think I may actually do it. I'm just going to grab a hammer here. Be right back. We'll kind of see how well this fared out here anyway. Oh, there we go. You know, I'm almost wondering if yeah, maybe I'll just take the grinder like I did with the other one here, because that thing is welded on there pretty good. Yeah, this other one's not welded on, it just stuck through the hole, I think. Yeah, maybe. But either way, I can get at it with the grinder now anyway, because I want to trim it back enough where it can boy, there's a lot of rough jacking going on here. Yeah, I think that'll pretty much take care of that for now, but because I already got the other one cut off anyway, so I made some brackets for on here. I drilled the one out, but that's fine. I got the one sized up, but because I had no idea how I was gonna chuck it up on my lathe, and I just barely had enough clearance to set it so far offset for my standoffs. But yeah, I'll just work at this here for a while, get this here cut off, and then I got to pull the hub right off too at the same time, like I did with the other one. Put that off to the side, because otherwise, and then I got the center hole on there. Yeah, thought about chucking that up in the lathe, but being the fact it's way off center, I don't think I'll worry about trying to cut it off. Well, we'll see. I guess I'll just do like I did with the other one, grind it down, because my plate's going to sit back a little bit. I'll wire wheel it and chip all the rust off. And that shouldn't be too terribly bad. Okay, so I'll get these here pieces off the axle stub, and I don't have a whole bunch. I didn't want to get too close. I didn't want to cut these welds off just yet, because I got to sand it down a little bit, or grind down a little bit on the backside and tack weld it in place so it doesn't shift on me. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's going to work pretty good. A little bit of grinding here, and yeah, apparently just using the plasma cutter definitely worked a whole lot better than trying to get a zip wheel in there. That took me forever with the other one. And considering it was already rotted completely out. But yeah, this thing is, oh, ooh, she's still a little warm. But yeah, she's kind of rotted out, but apparently burned through a little bit there, but that's okay. It's scrap stuff anyway. I may get a little chunk of something good to use on something or other, but not much else. But anyways, so I'm going to get this thing cleaned up. I'll put my plastic cutter away, and I guess that's as far as I can go with that. I will bring you back when I get some more done. Hey, I got this other piece set up in the truck here. It's kind of way offset, but I got just enough room to clear my my cross slide here. But good thing this part's not any bigger than what it is, so. But we'll just take it from there, I guess, and they're going to drill this hole out, and then we'll bore it out to match out this other one I made. You know, so that's what it's going to end up looking like. I got the other shaft kind of trimmed down so it'll fit. These both of them were the same, and this one I trimmed it down a little bit and polished it up, but you see it's pretty pitted in here anyway for the grease seal. You can see the little groove where the seal was riding on, but be the fact it's greased, as long as it's kept well greased, it'll be fine. I'm not going to put a new, it doesn't go that terribly far anyway, just out to the field from the yard. So we'll get set up on this here, and we'll get this here drilled out and then start boring it. I had a bigger drill bit or good hole saw that I could zip into it faster, but 1 inch is the biggest one I got, so I'll have to deal with that, I guess. kind of barely. I guess I better just check how much room I got here yet. All right, I still got, I just got to get the rest of the way through here. There we go. I just didn't break that last little tiny bit of crust. Alright, grab my boring bar here, just have a look-see here. It's still sharp, so you get this thing set up. You just got to make sure yeah, it's gonna have to stick it in a little bit like that. Make sure I got enough room here. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Well, cinder, I guess. Can't do very heavy cuts because I got so much stick out on here. So I'll just do a couple of passes and I'll put you guys on time lapse. Definitely can't run this very fast because it'll shake the shit out of everything due to the fact it's so off center, out of balance. And due to the fact that I'm sticking out at the end of my jaws there, I had to stick a couple little magnets in behind to keep it spaced away. I tried washers and I couldn't get them to stay in place, so I just got a couple little magnets that happened to work. Hey, we're going to put you guys on time lapse here and we'll take it from there. Okay, I think we got her pretty close to the right size here. I'm just going to double check this. I think it'll be pretty darn close. So I'm just gonna pop it out now and see how we make of this. We're gonna have to make a little bit of noise here. Those magnets I put in there are kind of hanging on to things. Yeah, you can see the little magnets I got just sitting on the platform here, so well, it definitely helps anyway. We're gonna use my little deburring tool here. I'll have to grind this off after anyway for the weld to stick. Okay, so yeah, this here one's for this here shaft, and yep, that's all I need. Just a loose fit just so I can get the weld, just so it slides on easy, so I got a little bit of wiggle room to level it, and then I'll weld it in. But other than that, I'll see which one actually fits better on which. Maybe that one actually fits a little bit better on this one. And try the other one on the other one. Yeah, I think I'll just rotate them that way, because the one fits, yeah, I got a little bit better fit this way anyway, so. Yeah, so basically we're going to call the end of this here part one, I guess, because this could be pretty time consuming because I'm nowhere near done yet. But I still got to make little smaller standoffs to mount this axle stub on the plate, and it'll be another block sitting on here that'll get welded down, and I'll weld it around. But so I got 2 of those to make yet, and we'll be putting it together in the next video. But anyways, so yeah, we'll just call this end of video. Otherwise, it's going to be a 2-hour video by the time I'm done. So I just got to take it from there, and we'll see you guys on the next video, and hopefully everything turns out. I'm going to have to get one new seal. I'll probably get 2 new seals, depending on the cost of them, of course. The one's okay, but the other one is pretty tore up because I had twine wrapped around the axle. But this one, once I get those other pieces machined out for this here, then I'll bring you guys back when I start putting the thing together. Alright, well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.